The movie begins with a video of a man named Dmitry standing in a field, explaining that he is a Russian that works for Joseph Stalin and is fighting in a great war. Communist flags are planted across the snow, as we see a montage of a battle that took place over the course of many months. Eventually, we see a line of army infantry walking through a field, where a single soldier pulls out an old reel camera and begins recording. The rest of the film is told through the lens of this camera, as he is filming the war in a documentary format. While they converse around a map making battle plans, we cut to a gruesome battle scene with gunfire and explosions all around them. When the dust clears, one of the men stumbles across a skeleton laying in the dirt. The skeleton seems to be in tatters and the skull looks misshapen, but they simply ignore it. Later, they stumble across a small village while drunk. After having some fun, one of them wakes in the middle of the night from his drunken stupor when he notices someone walking in the bushes nearby. Thinking it is nothing, he goes back to sleep. The next morning, while walking, they notice another dead body laying in the woods. After picking up his weapon, he suddenly comes alive and spits blood onto the camera. Strangely enough, nobody seems surprised by this, as they continue their march forward. Later, they come across an abandoned battlefield with several advanced-looking weaponry and skeletal corpses. Around the corner, they also find a pile of nuns who had been burnt alive, showing the horrors of the war they are in. Continuing to explore, they enter a church to find that it is more of a mechanical factory rather than a place of worship. Poking around the building further, they turn the crank of a generator to bring power back to the church. After the power is back on, they find a mangled corpse of a person tied and butchered on the ground. When they touch it, an electric current rushes through its body as he slowly begins to stand up. He is covered in wounds with multiple weapons and blades attached to his arms, and he stumbles around the room in an alien manner. They try to communicate with him, but it ends up murdering one of the soldiers by using the weapon on its hand. The only thing they can do next is to put it down with a few bursts of their machine guns. Realizing that their friend who was stabbed is about to die, they mercy kill him with a swift stroke of their knife and carry his body out in a grim reminder of wartime horror. They try to radio for help, but they realize that their radio has been jammed. In response, they plan to use the large tower in the center of the church to try and get a better signal. While they work on this, one of the soldiers tries to take command of the unit, only to be shot down by the rest of his squad when the highest remaining ranked officer reminds him of his rank. As they continue to explore the village, they hear strange noises coming from one of the buildings. Upon entering, they find caged animals whimpering in a room. Before they can do anything, a man enters the room carrying a cage. They quickly shoot him in response, as they want to interrogate him to find out where the rest of the Russian units are. During the interrogation, they ask him about the other Russian units, but he doesn't know what they are talking about. They start torturing him with a knife by removing his fingers, and he tells them that he will take them to where he works, as it will explain everything. He brings them into a dark-looking cellar and points them down a stairwell, telling them the missing Russian soldiers are inside. He tries to make them go alone, but they force him to lead the way through the mysterious passage. Pointing the way further, they turn away for a moment only for him to disappear. Without any other option, they continue down the corridor looking for both him and their soldier squad. Suddenly, a vicious-looking creature with hooked blades for hands appears from a dark corridor. He swings his blades around until a second one comes out of nowhere and surprises them. They fight back with their guns, but there are too many of them, with each one having unique characteristics and masks. The only thing they can do is flee. Eventually, one of them, almost entirely made of metal and a cage around his head, manages to surprise and wound one of them in the panic. They throw a grenade to escape and drag their wounded friend out of the room. While they tend to their wounded friend, they realize that the man they were interrogating clearly set them up with a trap to be killed by the strange creatures. Later, while on watch, they hear loud banging noises and cries of anguish. Suddenly, a group of men and women stumble into the room. They start to interrogate the new group of people, as the woman tells them that the undead will be coming due to all the noise. They don't know how many there are, but the number of monsters are great. Realizing the predicament she is in, the woman offers to help with their injured soldier friend due to the fact that she is a nurse. While tending to him, they don't notice that an undead monster has slowly infiltrated the group. He shoves a drill through the back of one of their heads, killing him violently. They try to fight the creature off, but more soon appear and begin attacking them. Rather than killing him immediately, one of the monsters drags the soldier away as the others continue their assault. They manage to escape down a small trapdoor in the floor, but the woman is left behind as she was laying unconscious on the floor. Once downstairs, they open the bags of the cameraman and realize that he had a radio jammer in his bag. They beat him to the floor, realizing that he was a spy all along. Before they can kill him, he suddenly pulls out a sheet of paper, proving that he is not a spy, but in fact their highest-ranking officer. The paper also includes a full list of the squad members' name and their family members. He threatens them, saying that if anything happens to him, their families will be in danger. Apparently, they are here on a top-secret mission to capture the doctor that had been creating the monsters. Realizing they have no option, they continue the search for the doctor through the dark tunnels. They come across all kinds of corpses and broken war equipment. Before they know what to do, the monsters suddenly appear once again. Abominations of undead and machine, they flee from the creatures and try to close the door, barely escaping. Unfortunately, one of the creatures is in the room with them, but thankfully it is laying on the floor, unable to harm them. They then come across another creature, but it seems to be working on something. They quickly kill it to be safe and explore the rest of the room, saving the life of a child in the process. They notice a bloody-looking chute that has metallic noises coming from it, and decide to send the boy into the hole to see what is down there. Lowering him down, the boy begins to scream as smoke floods the room. Suddenly, a large mechanical monstrosity with a propeller for a head shows up out of nowhere. They light him on fire to dispatch of him, narrowly avoiding death. Unfortunately, one of the men was unlucky, as a piece of the propeller lodged in his skull. Realizing they still need to find the doctor, they throw the highest-ranking officer who they still suspect might be a spy down the chute to continue the mission alone. He screams at them to return, but he is unable to climb back out. While he is mumbling to himself, suddenly a large monster approaches him, but only grabs his camera bag and equipment rather than attacking him. Confused by this, he follows the monster into its lair to find several more, all performing construction tasks and operations as if they are labor workers. Hiding in a separate room, the man turns the camera on himself and leaves a message to his parents. Apparently, he made a deal with the government to trade the doctor for immunity from the war for his parents. Hearing a strange noise, he walks up a set of stairs and enters a doctor-looking room. There are several strange figurines, including a severed head attached to a teddy bear. He films various parts of the room until he is drawn to a door with a loud buzzer beeping above it. Upon entering, he finds a large, cold storage room with several bodies hanging from the ceiling. In the corner is a man raising one of the bodies on a hook, causing him to hide behind a crate. Unfortunately, there is a wounded man laying in the crate that is still alive, and he begins shouting in German, trying to communicate. The undead monster instead wheels him away as he cries in agony until he is attacked by a large monster with blades for hands. Attracting attention from the others, he runs away narrowly, escaping several more monsters that come at him from all angles. Rushing down a set of stairs, he stumbles across his fellow soldier unit friend, only to find he has been turned into a zombie. He is struck in the head and passes out. When the camera turns on again, he finds himself sitting in a chair at a dinner table, while the doctor is setting up the camera in the corner of the room. The doctor pours a strange soup-like liquid into a bowl and forces the man to eat it with the help of one of the monsters. The doctor repeats constantly that he wants the man to eat, to be strong, because he wants someone to have a record of his work. He forces the rest of the food down the man's throat, and suddenly, he is far more receptive to everything the doctor says. It cuts to a scene of him filming the doctor as the doctor takes him through his operating room surrounded by monsters. According to the doctor, he can sew various parts together of machinery to human bodies, and they become nothing more than toys or puppets. They notice one of the fellow soldiers on a table with one of his arms missing, and he is quickly wheeled away. The doctor continues to show up him work, bragging about his inventions and the abominations he has created. When he brings him to another room, he pulls a sheet off a table, and we see another army member from his prior unit, also captured by the doctor. He sticks a needle in one of them, killing him, and they continue the tour. Elsewhere, the doctor uses a buzzsaw to cut the top off of the soldier's head, revealing his brain. After a quick chat with his other army unit friend sitting at the side, the doctor enters the room and takes a buzzsaw to his head as well. In the next scene, the soldier is strapped to a chair with machinery coming out of his head. By pumping his body with electricity, they bring him back to life. Unfortunately, unbeknownst to the cameraman, the doctor straps him to a table and takes his camera. To the misfortune of the cameraman, the doctor is planning to turn him into a machine as well. Before he can do anything, an explosion rocks the room as the war has reached the building. Before he can leave, suddenly the doctor is shot from behind, and one of the other soldiers rushes up and cuts the head off the doctor. Meanwhile, a monster in the background slowly breaks free from his restraints and begins to approach the soldier tied to the table. After approaching the table, he bites into the soldier's head in his final moment. The movie swiftly ends. No survivors, no witnesses, and all dead. Thanks for watching the video. Please like and subscribe to the channel. It really helps me out when you do that. And of course, check out the other videos if you like watching recaps.